Okay, so the day started off Friday the 13th, kind of uneventful. If you look here, some guy's got like a broom or something blocking the street, and I thought somebody was going to trip over, and I took the subway to work, and that went pretty smoothly, the train coming in on time just when I got to the station. And when it wasn't that crowded, for some reason on Fridays, I guess a lot of people aren't working. Caught my eye on the subway were these ads. A lot of them are for iOS apps, and this one is one called Pager, where you could just get like doctor services through some app. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing on the platform, like when I was changing trains at West 4th Street, they've got these like kiosks where you can check out the maps and where where the trains are. Now the only thing that's annoying about these kiosks is they're supposed to be touch sensitive, but the touch capacity is so weak compared to what you're used to with the iPhone and the iPad. And I just wish when they do these public, kiosks, they would have better technology. Apple should be making these kiosks because Apple has better touch technology. So I played around with that for a while, and it was kind of limited. So I think, when the MTA gets these partners to put in this technology, they should get better technology. I think whoever's running this for the MTA doesn't know what it's doing. And this is like an emergency pillar where you can, dial for emergency, and it's kind of limited. I don't know who really uses this. I guess if you were in a big emergency, you would press that button. So, one thing they haven't really fixed is the maps. Most people still use not that kiosk, but these sort of old-fashioned maps and these notices as to service. Now look how complicated that is to look up and to find. You find like if your train is running on time. West 4th Street though is still dirty. Look how dirty the floor is. It looks like there's a million pieces of bubble gum or gum that have been pressed into the floor, and it's really dirty. The tracks were not as dirty as usual, but you still could see some trash. So I really do think, we've got to find a way to make our public transportation look better. Here's the C train, and the C train looks so old school. I mean, the E train has more modern cars, but the C train is very looks like it's from the 1950s. Another big problem in the subway is homelessness, and here's a guy completely asleep or passed out, barely, having enough stuff on him. One of the nice things downtown is you get to see all sorts of interesting things. Here is like an English soldier guarding a bar, and then there's a beautiful mural here of tribute to the 9/11 attack. There's the beautiful building that's being built that looks like a bird at Ground Zero that's going to house the Port Authority entrance, I guess. And here's a beautiful time lapse of all of Ground Zero. And you can see it's really starting to shape up. It's going to be a major destination, I think. And it already is for a lot of tourists, but, slowly but surely they're building it up. Now, one of the great things about downtown is that you do get beautiful sunsets along the Hudson River. And here, sunset is at 4:40 on Friday the 13th. And you can see we're getting a beautiful colors of red, orange, yellow, and blue, and very nice cloud movement. So it's really, New York has beautiful scenes, and this is one of them. So, I was very impressed by that. Okay, so at the end of the day, I was heading uptown, going back to home, and the subway was not as crowded. The streets were not as crowded because I think it's Friday, and I do think there's fewer people working in the city. And I was in a rush. I was in a rush to get to my destination, and as I was checking my phone, I noticed on social media there were all sorts of stories about an attack in Paris, and it was kind of disconcerting, to read this stuff on social media. No one at the time, knew what was going on, and it was Friday the 13th, the end of the work week, And, I think for a lot of people, not just in France, but in the Western world and in America, people were very stressed out with these reports of a terrorist attack on innocent people occurring. So, you know, I was in the dark. I didn't know what was going on, and I was rushing home and, you know, trying to sense what was going on around me in the city. Because when you hear of an attack in some place like Paris, you're also thinking, could these people also attack in New York? They have previously attacked in New York. Obviously, we had the tragedy and of what happened in 9/11, and we don't want that to happen again. And so, those were things that were racing through my mind at the time when checking social media and reading about those reports in Paris. So, it was, I would say it was a stressful time. Good thing we have, policemen, like this brave policeman, sort of guarding the way. And then it was confirmed, here are some pictures from the internet. And, this was a horrific attack. It affects all people who embrace freedom and values of liberty and peace. And really, this is a big problem. What are we going to do with addressing these extremist groups who are looking to undermine our way of life through violence and attacks? So, in New York, like going home, you could see already there were like beefed up police patrols. Here in this video, you can see a line of police cars with sirens. And so there was a lot of patrolling. And you just got this sense of apprehension in New York. Law enforcement and those who are protecting New York stepped up patrols.